There's a piece of understanding our own bias to say that what's my lens. And I think that's a question actually for all of us to ask, like, what is the lens through which I'm seeing this? And that's actually been a lot of my ahas. Again, I'm a person of color, and I can be like, what's my bias, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, but when it comes to understanding someone's experience, I think that you can't really understand until you actually go to the experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so lately there's been a lot of conversations that I've been just kind of, either I'm part of it or just listening in. That's been two words around proximity and people. And so when we talk about taking something personally, you can't, like, let's say you're completely uninvolved in it, like as in like I physically was not attacked, right?
Mm-hmm.
So unless I have been attacked in the past or know someone who's been attacked, it becomes like, well, how do I take that personally? But the only way I can do that, the reason, if I have been attacked or I know someone who's been attacked close to me, that creates proximity with people. And now I can take it personally. And so what happens is when you are removed from the experience, it does become hard to be like, how can I take this personally? How do I do that? And it's with good intentions. It's not that everyone's like, I don't want to take it. It's like, how do I do that? And that requires this proximity to the experience, which means engaging in conversation, engaging in understanding. And some of that is like through resources, some of that is directly through conversations with people. But I think sometimes a challenge also with this idea of taking it personally means that it requires an investment of time. We usually want things to be like, what are a couple things that I can do that I know that I've done, and I'm like, I'm good to go. And if that's all that happens during this time, then I feel like it is a huge missed opportunity for change. And I think we have to realize that, even as I think about it, like sometimes I am very much the type of person to be like, how can I get to things quickly? But it's made me take a step back and go, but this is not a quick anything. It requires an investment, and what would that investment look like? And so when we think about building relationships, creating that proximity, do it relationally as you would any relationship, rather than I had my 2-3 conversations, I got it, I'm good. And because that's not, you can't take it personally that way. Then you've just become like almost like a voyeur. You've looked in, you've dipped your feet in, and you dipped out. So I would say, that's why for me, even like in your Courageous Conversations chat that we had a few weeks back, I kind of was like, yes, like it's okay to feel bad, it's okay to feel confused, like all of those things are okay. My challenge really has been around like, don't let that stop you. Like, don't let the feeling of that stop you from taking that next step of like really figuring out, because those feelings are there for a reason. Like, investigate it and be like, what do I do about it? Because I think that's where we start to think like, how do I take this personally? And you can work. I think sometimes people are like, what's the grandest thing I can do? Well, you may not be in a place to get there yet, but how do you move forward? So even for you, like as you say, I'm recognizing biases. Like, what are my biases? Now, knowing the person that you are, you're going to start being like, what action do I need to take now that I know about my bias? It's like, I think that should be your natural evolution, to be like, okay, what's next? Not just that I've now done this, now I'm done. Like, and I would say, let's even, for a lot of folks who listen in, there might be business owners. And so how do you look at your business? You definitely, if you're someone who wants your business to thrive, you recognize that I don't just stop here. I continue to move forward. And I think, why can't we take that same approach when we're talking about this? I just feel like it's just been one of those sensitive pieces that nobody wants to talk about because it's got such an ugly history.
Yes.
There's such an ugly history involved. No one wants to talk about it. I'm like, but you can't do that. Like, just sweep it. The more you sweep it under the rug, it just gets dustier at some point, just like it's going to come out. And so I would rather us, like even as I mentioned in our church, one of the conversations we've had, this idea of a junk drawer, and this idea that this junk drawer gets, every so often in history, this junk drawer gets opened up. And the idea is, at what point do you decide that I need to declutter this? Like, I need to do something with this junk drawer. It would be such a waste if we decide to move a couple things and we close that drawer back up. I think that would be a big miss on our part. And I think that's where the idea of like taking it personally comes in. It's like, what does that look like, right?